score if you play Caitlin Clark one-on-one these days, man?
I'm not going to give a score, but I think I'd win.
That's a good answer.
And I've told her that too.
Okay.
So
you are only one of two players in Iowa high school basketball that scored over 1,500 points that also play football in the NFL. Do you know who that other person is?
TJ Hawkinson.
I thought that was going to be a tough one for you. Was you gunning for him or something like that? Did you knew that was the guy?
I actually didn't know that until I was done.
Could you beat him 1v1?
I've never really seen him play.
Okay.
I'd have to do a little scouting report probably and get back to you on that one.
Take a look at what happened this week in the world of sports, where the lines between professional leagues are starting to blur in a way that has everyone talking. You have probably seen the headlines, the tweets, and the endless debates on sports radio. But to really understand the tension here, you have to look at the specific moment the claim was made. We are talking about Cooper DeJean, the Philadelphia Eagles rookie cornerback, a guy known for his incredible speed and defensive instincts on the football field. He sat down for an interview recently with Overtime SEN, and the conversation inevitably turned to the biggest name in sports right now, Caitlin Clark. Now, usually when NFL players talk about WNBA stars, they tread carefully, offering polite respect or vague praise. But DeJean went a different route. He looked directly at the interviewer and dropped a bombshell that instantly set the internet on fire. He didn't just say he could keep up with her. He said, "I think I would win." He even added that he has told her this to her face. It wasn't said with malice, and it wasn't said with the typical internet troll energy we are used to seeing, which actually makes it more intriguing. This is a guy who shared a campus with Clark at the University of Iowa. They know each other, they are friends, but that proximity seems to have given DeJean a level of confidence that most people find shocking. You have to understand the atmosphere when a statement like this drops. Immediately, the social media comments section exploded. On one side, you have the die-hard Caitlin Clark defenders, who view this as another example of a male athlete refusing to give a woman her credit, assuming that raw athleticism translates perfectly to basketball skill. On the other side, you have the football fans who look at DeJean's size, speed, and vertical leap and think, well, maybe he has a point. It is a clash of two massive fan bases, but it is also a clash of two different philosophies about what makes a basketball player great. Is it the pure technical skill and shooting range that Clark possesses, or is it the raw, explosive power of an NFL defensive back? This wasn't just a throwaway comment. It was a challenge laid down by a professional athlete at the top of his game against another professional at the top of hers. It creates a fascinating what-if scenario that we rarely get to see played out in real life. We are used to seeing athletes stay in their lanes, but DeJean swerved right into Clark's lane with a smile on his face. And the reason this is sticking in the news cycle isn't just because of who they are, but because of the genuine belief in DeJean's voice when he said it. He genuinely believes he takes that game, and that belief is what we need to investigate, because to dismiss it entirely might be a mistake, but to accept it without question is definitely ignoring the greatness of Caitlin Clark. To really understand why Cooper DeJean feels comfortable making a claim like this, you have to dig into his past, because this isn't just a random football player talking trash. If you look at the tape from his high school days in Iowa, the picture starts to get a lot more complicated. DeJean wasn't just a guy who played basketball to stay in shape for football. He was a legitimate hooper. In high school, he scored 1,832 career points. That is a staggering number. That puts him ahead of almost everyone in Iowa State history, ironically sitting just behind another NFL tight end, TJ Hawkinson. When you watch the highlights of DeJean on the court, you see a player who isn't just relying on being stronger than the other kids. He has a handle. He has a jump shot. He can dunk with ease, obviously, but he also understands spacing and defensive positioning. This context is crucial because it changes the entire dynamic of the debate. He isn't coming at this from a place of ignorance. He is coming at it from the perspective of someone who dominated the high school level in the same state where Clark became a legend. He was a multi-sport phenom, the kind of athlete who looks like he was created in a lab to play anything that involves a ball. He brings a level of lateral quickness that is rare even in the NBA, let alone in a casual one-on-one game. This is a guy who plays cornerback in the NFL, a position that requires arguably the fastest reaction times in all of sports. If anyone has the foot speed to stay in front of Caitlin Clark, theoretically, it is someone like him. But here is where the investigation takes a turn. High school dominance in Iowa is one thing. The WNBA is an entirely different universe. The gap between being a high school star and a professional basketball player is the Grand Canyon. We have seen this story before where elite athletes from other sports think their skills transfer, only to look foolish when they step onto the court with someone who does this for a living every single day. DeJean's resume is impressive, undeniably. He has the stats, he has the points, and he has the athleticism. But does he have the reps? Does he have the muscle memory that comes from shooting thousands of threes a day the way Clark does? When he says he told her he could win, he is relying on his physical tools to overwhelm her technical brilliance. It is the classic athlete versus baller debate. DeJean represents the pinnacle of American athleticism. Fast, strong, explosive. He is betting that those traits are enough to bridge the gap in basketball IQ and shooting touch. It is a bold bet, and looking at his high school numbers, it is not a completely baseless one, which is exactly why this story hasn't gone away. It sits right in that gray area where you can almost see it happening, even if your brain tells you the professional basketball player should win every time. Now we have to look at the other side of this equation, and honestly, this is where the reality check usually hits the hardest. Caitlin Clark is not just a good basketball player. She is a generational offensive engine who has fundamentally changed the geometry of the court. When Cooper DeJean says he can beat her, he is likely imagining a game where he can use his physicality to bully her, maybe post her up or crowd her airspace so she cannot get a shot off. But that assumes he can even catch her. Clark's game is built on a level of conditioning and constant movement that most football players, even the defensive backs, are not used to. In the NFL, play happens in bursts, 5 seconds of extreme exertion followed by 30 seconds of rest. Basketball is fluid, continuous, and relentless. Clark runs miles in a game, navigating screens, cutting and stopping on a dime. Her superpower isn't just her shooting range, it is her ability to create separation. She doesn't need much room, maybe an inch or two, and her release is lightning fast. If DeJean thinks he can just sag off her and use his speed to close the gap, he is wrong. Clark regularly hits shots from 30 feet out. That means DeJean has to guard her the moment she crosses half court. Think about the energy expenditure required to press a ball handler 40 feet from the basket for an entire game. It is exhausting. And then there is the skill gap. We are talking about a player who processes the game at a computer-like speed. She reads leverage instantly. If DeJean overcommits to a steal, she is gone. If he plays too tight, she uses his own momentum against him. We also have to talk about the delusion of the non-basketball athlete. There is a common misconception among football players that basketball is soft, or that they can just clamp up a basketball player because they are used to tackling. But basketball defense is about discipline and footwork, not just collision. You cannot tackle in basketball. You cannot hand-check the way you used to. If they played by standard rules, DeJean would likely foul out in the first 10 minutes. He is used to being able to jam receivers and use his hands. Against Clark, one reach-in and she is at the line, or worse, she has blown by him while he is off balance. The precision of her dribble, the way she protects the ball, and her step-back jumper are weapons that have destroyed the best female defenders in the world. Women who have dedicated their lives to stopping players exactly like her. For DeJean to walk in off the football field and shut that down would defy everything we know about skill acquisition. It is not just about being fast, it is about being fast with a ball in your hand, which is a completely different biomechanical skill. Clark makes the extraordinary look routine, and that consistency is usually what breaks the spirit of challengers who rely purely on athleticism. Let's play this out in our heads, treating it like a serious simulation of a one-on-one game to 11. The setting is an empty gym, just DeJean and Clark. The ball is checked. The first thing you would notice is the size difference. DeJean is listed around 6'1", roughly 200 pounds. Clark is 6 feet tall, but much lighter. On paper, DeJean has the strength advantage. If he decides to back her down into the post every single possession, he might score a few buckets just purely on mass. That is his path to victory. Bully ball. He would have to turn it into a wrestling match, keeping the game ugly and slow. But here is the problem. Possession changes. When Clark gets the ball, the dynamic shifts instantly. She is likely playing make it, take it. If she hits that first shot, DeJean might never see the ball again. Watch how she operates in isolation. She hits him with a hesitation dribble. DeJean, reacting with NFL twitch reflexes, bites on the fake. Clark steps back. Swish. Next play. She drives hard right. DeJean opens his hips to run with her, and she hits the brakes. He goes flying past her because he is moving at football speed, not basketball-controlled speed. She lays it in. The score starts climbing, and panic sets in. This is where the cardio difference becomes fatal. By the 5th point, DeJean is breathing heavy. His legs, used to explosive bursts, start to feel heavy with the constant lateral shuffling. His jumper, which was good in high school, starts to flatten out because his legs are gone. Clark, meanwhile, is barely breaking a sweat. She is in mid-season form. She exploits his fatigue. She starts engaging him in conversation, maybe smiling a bit because she has seen this movie before. Every guy at the rec center thinks he can beat the D1 girl until she drops 3 straight triples in his eye. The mental aspect of this matchup is fascinating because DeJean is a competitor. He won't quit. He will try to get physical, maybe bump her on the drive. But Clark is used to WNBA physicality, which is deceptively rough. She absorbs the contact and finishes. The final score? It probably isn't a shutout. DeJean is too athletic not to get a lucky steal or a layup. Maybe it ends 11-4 or 11-5, but the victory goes to the specialist. The person who does the thing for a living almost always beats the person who used to do the thing for a hobby. It is a fun thought experiment, and DeJean likely scores more points than the average person, but the result is almost inevitable. The gap in handling and shooting under pressure is just too wide to cross with athleticism alone. So where does that leave us with this bold claim? It leaves us in a place that sports fans love to inhabit, the land of endless debate. Cooper DeJean's confidence is exactly what you want from a cornerback. You want a guy who looks at a superstar and says, "I can take them." That irrational confidence is a requirement for his job in the NFL. If he didn't believe he was the best athlete on the planet, he wouldn't be playing on Sundays. But believing it and doing it are two very different things. This story highlights a growing trend where we see cross-sport comparisons becoming more common. We saw it with NBA players claiming they could play in the NFL, and now we are seeing the reverse. It speaks to the rising profile of women's basketball that an NFL star is even talking about this. A few years ago, this question wouldn't have even been asked. The fact that DeJean feels the need to stake his claim against Clark shows that she is the standard. She is the bar. He isn't saying he can beat a random WNBA player. He is targeting the face of the league because that is the scalp that matters. It is a sign of respect, wrapped in a layer of competitive ego. Ultimately, unless they actually step onto the court and stream it for the world to see, we will never know for sure. But based on the history of these types of challenges, the smart money is always on the specialist. Cooper DeJean is a phenomenal athlete and an Iowa legend in his own right, and his high school stats demand respect. He is not a scrub, but Caitlin Clark is a surgeon on the court. She has honed a very specific set of skills to a level that 99.9% of the population cannot comprehend. While DeJean might win a game of horse if he gets lucky, or maybe hold his own in a dunk contest, a straight-up game to 11 belongs to the shooter. It is a fun distraction, a great headline, and a testament to the competitive fire of both athletes. But for now, the crown remains with the queen of the court. And until DeJean laces them up and proves otherwise, his claim remains just that, a bold, entertaining, and likely impossible claim.